There are multiple ways to make any 3D model, and this isn't the best way or the only way to make this axe. The aim of this video is to show you how to use some of the tools that were introduced in the previous videos using real world examples on a simple model. The task is to make an axe, but we want you to make your own version of the axe. Don't just copy me verbatim. All we ask is that you use references from the real world. I'm going to keep it very simple here, but please feel free to elaborate on your own models. One thing to note before we start is that I've enabled the screencast keys, so down here you'll notice there's a little mouse icon which will highlight whichever button I'm pressing on the mouse, and it will also bring up whichever keys I'm pressing. I'm using Windows, so if you're using a Mac you'll probably have to substitute Control with Command. To start with, we're going to get rid of the cube because we don't need it just now, and we're going to bring in a reference image of the axe that we can work from. I'm going to hold down Alt and use the middle mouse button to drag. I'm going to drag down so I have Z facing up. This means that we're basically orthographically looking straight down onto the surface. Then I'm going to add in the reference by clicking Shift A, and we're going to go to Image and Reference. Then we select the axe image, and it's coming quite big, so we're going to scale it down with spacebar S. And we'll just drag that to the middle now. To help us get an idea of the scale, we're going to create a cube that's going to be 17.6 centimeters because we know that that's the length of the axe. So I'm going to change my X to 17.6, and that's the length of the object we want to have. Now I need to select the reference again, press spacebar S to scale it down. And that's about the size we want. I'll press delete to get rid of the cube because we don't need it anymore. Now when we click the reference image, we'll notice that the pivot is up here. So to get rid of this, what we want to do is go to the image on the right hand side in this section over here. We'll click here and we'll change offset to 0 and 0. And then all we have to do is drag this down to where we want it. We want it to be roughly in the center, like this. Okay, so now we have our reference lined up. To make sure that we don't accidentally select the reference image, what we'll do is we'll go to the top right hand corner and click this thing that looks like a filter and then turn on selectable. Now we have these little arrows next to here, so I can click this and now I can't select it in the field and I won't accidentally move it when I'm modeling. So now it's time to start modeling. The first thing we're going to do is add in a cube, and then we're going to resize it to roughly the right width and just move it to where we want it to be. And now I'm going to switch into modeling mode by pressing Tab. Then I'll press Alt Z to go to ghost mode so that I can see through, and I'll select all of them rather than just the top ones. Then I will select the vertices, move them down to somewhere around here, and take these two and move them out so they roughly match the edges of the shape. I don't want to be too perfect here, but it's good to get a rough general shape. Now I'll press 3 so I can select polygons, and I will drag out to select this one. Press E to extrude out, maybe to somewhere around here, and then do one more so I get the end as well. At the front I'll do the same and go to roughly here, I would say, and then go back to 1, and we will select these ones here. Move them to the edges, roughly. Let's do these two up here as well. There we go. So the reason I'm not extruding this one out at the bottom is because I want to do a loop slice. So I'll cut it this way instead and then just move them out. This will give me cleaner geometry in the end. So pressing Ctrl R, I'll then do a loop slice, one roughly around here, and another one probably somewhere around there. And I can just drag these down. once I put on the smoothing modifier later on, this will be added anyway. At the top, we'll just pull these two out a little bit so they get the rough shape. Now we have a very rough shape, but we want to improve it slightly. We also have to give it the shape on the other side as well. So the best way to do this is just to go into object mode, drop space R to rotate, and then hold Control, and you will be able to get it to 90 degrees. Let's just check it's 90, yeah, good. And then we just move it to where we want it to be. Let's just make sure we're looking top down, and go back into edit mode. Now I can just drag these down to roughly the shape where I want them to be. Going all the way around just to give it the correct shape. Like this. Now, if we look at this from this direction, we'll see that the edges here are way too big for the front bit. They should be roughly the same shape. So we'll just select these two to the side, and let's press space S to scale, and we just bring them down so they're roughly around here. I can see that this shape here isn't quite right now. So if we go back up, we can add in another loop about here. Just select these ones, scale it up so they have roughly the right shape. Maybe we'll bring them back a bit as well, actually. Right, so now we have a slightly better shape on the front. Because we can see on the edges that these ones are slightly curved, they're not perfectly square. We should also select the ones on the edges. So I'm holding Shift, and then I can just click the ones that I want to add to the selection. If I add one that I don't want to select, I can press Control and deselect it. And let's just scale them down just a touch. Right, so now I'm quite happy with that shape. What I will do is I will go to the side view and go to Object and rotate it back down to correct orientation. Then we'll just move it to be on top. So now we have a very rough shape, but we want to enhance it slightly to really get the shape of the top of the axe. I think what I'll also do is I'll add one extra loop slice in the center, and then we'll just move these ones out slightly. So I'll hold Alt and then select one, and then it will select the entire loop. Let's just move them out a little bit. Down. We can spread that out just two, just so it gets a bit more shape. There, that should be good. And I'll go to the Modify Properties panel on the side, and I will add a Subdivision Surface modifier. So what this will do is it will make everything a little bit smooth and blobby. This is good in a way, but we also want to make it sure it keeps some of the shapes that we want. To do this, I'm going to have to add in extra support loop slices, and I'm going to add them around the edges here and one underneath. Let's just move this up so we can see everything fully. Oops. And also on the back. So you see that the back has sort of become a little bit too rounded now, whereas we want it to match the shape of the actual object. What the subdivision modifier is doing is it's trying to average the edges. So you see we have this edge down here and we have this edge down here. It tries to make a curve between the two. So if we move this down or we add another one in here, it will decrease the angle that we have to make a round area. So if I add an extra slice here, you see the curve is much less. So if we just move all of this, oops, if we go back into this one, into ghost mode, and then we can move it back so it's in the right shape now. Let's just move everything back on. seems like there's also a little bit too much curvature going on here, so we need to add an extra slice at the top. And then we just need to adjust these slightly. Just to try and match the shape as much as we possibly can. So that's starting to look alright. Let's press Alt-C again. And also we can see that there are these sort of weird shadow lines that are on the axe. This is just because it's being smoothed with flat surfaces rather than smooth properly. So to change this, I'll right click and I'll go to Shade Smooth. And now we have a smoother looking object. I'm relatively happy with the shape now, but the front needs to be a little bit less rounded. So I'll hold down Alt and select this one. And I'll do the same on the bottom by pressing Shift and Alt, so we collect them all. And then we'll just move these back slightly, so it gets a bit more of a sharp edge. Let's have an Inspect in Object mode. And I think that looks alright.